was younger, I lived in a tiny house that was far from considered the ideal dwelling. I remember my parents had to stop the wind from entering by stuffing the holes with paper and old clothing. We were not a perfect family, but we had enough love to keep us warm in that small wooden house. A few houses away lived both my paternal and maternal grandparents, whose yards were filled with fruit trees and livestock. My sisters and I had fun climbing the trees and enjoying fresh apples, oranges, and guineps on hot Jamaican days. I didn't realize how simple my life was, as it was also filled with the excitement of parties and Christmas treats and family outings. I especially enjoyed going to the beach. Now, as I reminisce, I come to understand why I'm simply extroverted. Apart from being able to enjoy a cottage or a country lifestyle in my city home, my family would make it their point of duty to visit relatives in the rural side of the country, and my siblings and I would spend even summer holidays there. I grew particularly to love Mandeville. It's a wonderful parish that's miles away from where we lived, but my mother and I often traveled there to sell sheets and aprons that we sewed. That was their way of making a living, and of course we sold our goods at numerous markets across the island. But I always enjoyed going to what was affectionately called Cool Mandeville. Mom always says that she wants to buy a house there. We enjoyed sleeping in the market to catch weekend and holiday sales. I especially loved selling there on Christmas Eve because after selling, I used to get my own money to buy whatever I wanted to buy. And I usually buy thrift clothing. Back then, we didn't think it was thrifting. We just thought it was what we called old broke. But it was cheaper and we could spend our money on different things, like the money could stretch, you know. People in the countryside are usually so warm and friendly. So sometimes the sellers there would barter their goods. These precious memories will never elude my mind. No wonder I always have a love for the countryside and simple life. I think my survival and acceptance as a city girl is because of my circumstances. I accepted my reality and it caused me to wear a mask. A mask I didn't know I was wearing. I'm simple at heart and it's being revealed many years later. Hello there, welcome back to another video, and thank you for watching. To all my new subscribers, I didn't want to make the video too long, and so the story is not yet finished, but I decided to cut it into two parts. So this is part 1 of 2. It's so funny that as I began to put this story together, my 22-year-old nephew decided to raise this conversation with me about how it is that he is discovering himself and how important it is for him to do so, because sometimes we get carried away with being all that everybody else wants us to be, and sometimes we do not embrace our personalities. I shared with him that our personalities are shaped by the way we are cultured, and sometimes we don't discover who we really are until we travel or we live on our own. And it is so important for us to just have some time away by ourselves so we can discover ourselves. I was even sharing with him that I know a lot of young people, myself included of course, would want to engage in like romantic relationships. However, it is best for us to discover ourselves before we try to understand somebody else, and before we try to put ourselves out there like that. I'm gonna say this in context. It brings the worst out of us in that it shows us up and it reveals who we really are. And some things in us are not really shown until somebody else pull that out, or until we start to live with somebody else who is not afraid to tell us the truth. And at that point, it'll be hard for us to deal with certain things if we're not mature enough. And so understanding ourselves and coming to find who we really are and building our character is absolutely important. And I remember I told him that I didn't know that I had a simple side, an introverted side, and a quiet side, because all my life it was all just noise and excitement. So when I find myself loving simple life, loving the countryside, I started to look at it, and I know some persons who knew me from back then would laugh and say, "You like vintage clothes? You like these things? You like vintage stuff? You like simple life? You?" No, I would have to see it to believe it. Thank God I'm a country girl. Thank God I'm a country girl. I started to think myself, if that's the true me. And then that's when I remember that I had a simple life growing up. As I mentioned earlier in the video about the house that we lived in and the type of community spirit that we had with our family. And I do have many more parts of this story that I will share in the next video. So stay tuned, and I hope you do have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and a wonderful month until we see each other again. Take care.